The wind did not simply pass across the Montana frontier. It roared like a wandering spirit searching for rest. In the year 1886, survival for a woman depended on only two things: the courage inside her chest or the protection of the man who stood beside her. Clara Whitmore stood alone on a frozen rail platform and knew she had already lost one of those things. She had lost everything back east when an iron works collapsed and buried her future under ruin and debt. The last of her money had bought her a one-way ticket west. Now she stood at Gray Hollow Station with one small trunk and frozen fingers, staring at the man everyone whispered about. They called him Hollow Reed. He stood apart from the others, wrapped in animal skins and patched wool stitched so many times it barely held together. Frost clung to his boots. His beard was thick and untamed, the shade of dark oak. He looked like a man shaped from earth and stone. A man with nothing to give but rough hands and a harsher life. The train whistle cried like a morning song as it pulled away, leaving Clara behind. The sky above the station was heavy and dark, the color of a fading bruise. Winter was not coming. It had already arrived. In the West, a woman alone was not free. The law made that clear. The town sheriff told her she could not stay in the boarding house without a husband or steady work. There were no jobs left for women like her. She had only two choices: return east to hunger and shame or take the hand of the man waiting at the edge of the platform. His name was Elias Reed. To the people of Gray Hollow, he was barely considered a man. He came down from the mountains twice a year to trade pelts for salt and tools. He did not drink. He did not talk unless spoken to. Folks said he lived in a pit in the ground and survived like a wild creature. They said he owned nothing but the clothes on his back. Yet when Clara looked at him, she did not see danger. His eyes were quiet and deep like still water that had endured many storms. "I have a cabin," Elias said softly. His voice was low and steady like distant thunder. "It is far. The road is hard, but you will be safe. You will be respected." Clara looked at her thin shoes and then toward the sharp peaks rising in the distance. She knew nothing about mountains. She knew only cold, loss, and hunger. But she saw no cruelty in him, only strength, a strength she no longer had. With a shaking hand, she reached forward and took his. The judge completed the ceremony in less than 5 minutes. No music, no flowers, just two strangers binding their lives so they would not freeze alone. When it was done, Clara Whitmore was no longer alone in the eyes of the law. As the sun slipped behind the mountains, Elias lifted her trunk onto his shoulder as if it weighed nothing. He did not turn toward the town road. He pointed instead toward the highest ridge, the one people said no man should cross. "The path is narrow," Elias said quietly. "Follow my steps. Do not turn back." They stepped away from the trail and into the dark forest. The last lights of Gray Hollow vanished behind them. Clara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. She was not just leaving town. She was fading from the world. The forest closed around them. The air carried the scent of wet earth and old pine. Tall trees blocked the sky. For a long time, the only sound was the crunch of Elias's boots on frozen ground. Clara followed, her breath forming pale clouds. Silence pressed against her ears. No voices, no bells, only the deep quiet of the mountains. Elias moved with surprising ease. For such a large man, his steps were light and certain. Every few moments he paused and listened, as if the mountain spoke to him. "Wait," he whispered. Clara stopped, her heart racing. She expected danger. Instead, Elias knelt beside a frozen stream. He broke the ice and filled a small wooden cup. "Drink," he said. "The high air drains your strength." She drank, her fingers brushing his rough skin. His hands were scarred but careful. As she watched him glance toward the peaks, she realized he did not struggle here. He belonged. As they climbed higher, the trail grew dangerous. Soil turned to slick stone and narrow ledges with sharp drops below. Fear tightened inside her chest. She had thought him poor, but here his knowledge was worth more than gold. By dusk, the wind shifted. It carried the scent of snow. Elias stopped beneath a wide rock shelf. "We rest here," he said. Clara looked around. There was no cabin, no shelter, only cold stone. "Where is your home?" she asked quietly. "The mountain decides tonight," Elias replied. He worked quickly, gathering dry branches and needles. With flint and steel, he built a small fire. Soon a flame flickered against the stone, casting warmth on his face. "The mountain speaks," he said. "If you listen, it lets you stay." He handed her bark to chew, easing the ache in her head. She watched him carefully. This was no wild man. This was someone who understood the land in ways the town never tried to learn. "Why do they call you Hollow Reed?" she asked. "They see the outside," he said. "Not the man." Morning came without sunlight. Only a gray sky and cutting wind. Elias woke her before dawn. "The pass is close," he said. "If we cross, we live. If not, the snow takes us." They climbed hard. Trees twisted and shrank. Snow came sideways, erasing the world. Clara slipped. Before she fell, Elias caught her, pulling her into a narrow space between rocks. He wrapped her in his heavy hide. "Body warmth," he said calmly. "That is what keeps us alive." As the storm raged, he spoke of stars and direction. His voice was steady, educated. Clara listened to his heartbeat, strong and sure. She felt safe. Then something slipped from his coat. Gold. A locket. Inside was a painted portrait of a woman in fine Eastern clothing and a drawing of a grand building. Elias gently took it back. "That life is gone," he said. "You are not what they say," Clara whispered. When the storm cleared, the world turned bright with snow. "Come," Elias said. "It is time you understand." They climbed above the clouds. The air grew warmer, softer. Elias led her to a cliff that seemed impossible. Then he pulled aside frozen branches. Stone steps appeared, carved into the mountain. Clara followed, her heart pounding. The path opened into a hidden valley, green and alive. Steam rose from clear pools. Warm air touched her skin. "This is where the mountain hides its secrets," Elias said. As the mist cleared, Clara saw it. A vast house of cedar and crystal rising from the earth, glowing in the light. "That is home," he said softly. In that moment, she understood. She had not married a poor man. She had married a man who had hidden an entire world. They walked down into the valley. The ground was warm. Water flowed freely. The house stood strong and silent. Inside, warmth wrapped around her. Stone floors, cedar walls, shelves filled with books. Real books. Knowledge, design, ideas. This was no shelter. This was a life rebuilt. "How did you build this?" she asked. "Piece by piece," he said. "Over many years." They ate simply. They lived quietly. Days passed. Clara learned the land. Elias watched her bring order to his scattered work. One night, she asked, "Who were you before this?" He placed the locket on the table. "My name was Adrian Reed," he said. "I was an architect in Boston." He spoke of loss, of a life that broke him, of a world he left behind. "You did not run," Clara said. "You built something better." Winter passed. Spring came gently. Together, they expanded the house. Hope replaced grief. Far below, people spoke of rumors, but no one ever found the path. The mountain kept it secret. One morning, Clara stood above the valley, looking at endless peaks. She remembered the girl who thought she had married the poorest man. She smiled. Elias stood beside her. "They think we disappeared," she said. "Let them," he replied. "We found what mattered." And high above the world, beyond cold and fear, 2 lives proved that the greatest treasure was never gold, but a home no one could take away.